Hello and welcome back to the Chapter 416 podcast. My name is Pajama Pants. That's Brad Chester.
This time.
And today we're going to be talking about Adepticon and how amazing it is and how much
And
I
what
love
we're
it.
doing. And also we were going to show you lots of pics. And Alan said he wouldn't, even though he sent them to us in a group text. He said, there's no way I could possibly get these pics ready. I'm like, you literally sent them to me the other day, Alan. He's
Can't do it.
can't
Do it.
It's not even possible.
We'll do a picks episode some other time when they're all finished. I like the idea of showing the finished product. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of. I have to know that we're in fact going to finish. I have to know that the models actually will look good in the end, and I have to know that they're a good representation of what we could do. And then I'm cool with making a video about the journey.
Let's talk about how we were going to make a bunch of journeys videos. And we were also going to start so early this year because we knew for sure what we were doing. We were going to
That's
do
not true. That's not true. We were going to play guard.
100% true. We were not going to, we never, ever were going to play guard.
I was 1,000% going to play guard.
When did this even happen?
I actually bought Brian Carlson's guard army in order to play guard. Like literally bought an army for guard. In fact, I will take a picture of that guard army and put it right here.
Yeah, there's no chance you do.
1,000% I'm doing that.
Yeah, you can percent. I'm so busy, I can't possibly do anything. You are, however, working on. So one of us had a dream, vision, maybe even a vision quest. And that was Brad Chester. And he said, Alan, you know what I need in my life? My waterfall vision.
Oh, God.
My vision of a display board. Let's talk about what a Adepticon Team Tournament is. Adepticon Team Tournament is old school 40K. It's very big on theme. You actually have a comp score because it's built into that. You still have a battle score. You got a paint score. And then, of course, you have your sportsmanship spirit or whatever the thing is. But there's a lot that goes into it. You have to have a little bit of everything. And you want to get max. It's an all purpose. It's, again, old school. It's like it used to be. And it's one of my favorite tournaments, possibly my favorite tournament. It's the Adepticon Team Tournament. You have 4 players who each have 1,000-point army. And those players play two on 2 games. So there's 2,000 points, just like a regular game on the board on 2 different tables. And you have to play with each one of your teammates once. And then you can choose on day 2, because we play 5 games. You can play, and then you get to choose on day 2 who plays together. So you make your armies to be the best at playing with a specific other, but you have to rotate through everybody.
I think more people are probably familiar with doubles events. So it's like a doubles event, but you have multiple pairs of doubles because it's 4 people on the team.
Maybe even a double.
A double. Yeah. What would that be called?
Pretty sneaky 6, Connect 4. But that's so old, by the way. That's like maybe the oldest reference I've made in a long time. That's like a 1979 commercial.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I think it's still my favorite event, and I'm very excited for it. I think Adepticon also is going to be pretty packed this year, and from a singles perspective, from all the events, like all the tournament, like the Lord of the Rings is on fire, Age of Sigmar is on fire, 40K is on fire. I think Flames
singles
of War
going to be 300 person tournament.
Yeah, 300 person plus tournament. I remember it's been a while. Yeah, it's been.
We have to talk about this. So there's a reason that I don't play in this. I love singles. I play a lot of singles events. My team's still my favorite. But playing that much 40K for a guy that's trying to hang on desperately to life, because the singles tournament now is 4 games on Thursday and up to 5 games on Friday if you make the top 32. So they used to be 4 games and then a top 16, which another 4. But if you play all the way to the finals in Adepticon Championships, you're playing 5 games of 40K on Friday. So you're playing 9 games of 40K in 2 days. That's crazy, man. I love 40K, but that's a lot. That's a lot of 40K risk.
Yeah, I've actually done it once, and it is very tough. I did it at the only event that I know of that you could have done this at was if you were trying to go for the Ironman at Nova, which I did do, where you're playing in the 40K trios, the Invitational, and the Open. If you're doing all 3 events, you have 1 day where you play 5 games of 40K in 1 day, and it potentially 6. I think I must have lost in the semifinals or somewhere. So I didn't play that 6th game, but I did play 5 games of 40K in 1 day, and that was brutal. Especially when I was playing orcs back then. Remember, Brad? I was playing 180 boys with orc knobs. that was just a crazy army to play.
You were a powerful young lad at the time, though.
Yeah, but that's an insane army to play when you're playing 5 games in one. You really wanna play more, I don't know, give me 25 Custode Guard, some Dreadnoughts, and
Play
some,
knights, play like 9
yeah,
knights. You're
like,
good.
play something small.
Look, it's a big deal in that because that isn't something that I want to talk about today, which is when you play these big or these long tournaments, when you're playing 8, 9 games, and I usually they're spread out over 3 days, not that two. If I was trying to win the championships this year, I would take an army that gives me faster games, which can also hopefully give me a couple auto wins. So like armies that have are skewed a little bit so that you need certain things in the meta and you can just steamroll them. Because you need a
Yeah.
couple anytime you're winning a big tournament, you have to have a little bit of luck in matchups, dice, whatever. But you need some quicker. You need to be able to just go through because you're gonna get mental fatigue, man. You can only be on top of your game for so often and so much.
Yeah.
So that I think that's a big deal is army choice because there's certain armies that they really grind out. They play 5 turn games. They're really good armies. But if you're gonna play 9 games in 2 days, maybe you're not gonna be able to grind 9 5 turn games. You want something that just smoke show stuff. You want to throw your Daka Daka orcs on the board kind of thing, where you could just roll a million dice and pick somebody up. Maybe you want to play your 15 Warden Custodes with the new Lions of the Emperor detachment, where you have very few units, but it's very powerful and gets games done. Right?
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. The best feeling you have at a big tournament, especially when you're trying to when you're going to try to win, like, I know back in the day with LVO, for me, I would love to come to your table when you're still in deployment, and I'm like, "I'm done with my round." That's, like, my
Yeah,
favorite thing to do because I know I have a break now, like, rounds 2, 3, 4, I can maybe get a solid win out of those. If I think round 4 is still the first game, day 2, and then rounds 2 and 3. Rounds 1, 2, and 3 are crapshoot. But, yeah, if you can get those games out of the way faster than the 2.5 hours, 3 hours, it's really good. Very good for you psychology-wise to just have that fresh brain going to the next games. I think it's super solid.
wait, one of the big things on this is I think a little prep goes a long way. So I think that you want to
Oh, for
know.
sure.
Well, it's a big deal to know. One of the things that people don't do enough of is just deploying your army. I can't state enough. Know what your deployments are. And really, there's only so many deploy. You're going to deploy a certain way. Hey, is this a shooting army? Is this a hand to hand army? Is this a hybrid? You're going to go, hey, we're playing search and destroy board corners. Hey, we're playing tipping point. Put your army out there so you know exactly what you're going to do. So you're not wasting time. I almost have very few clock issues because I play pretty quickly, but also I know what I'm going to do before I come to the table. And I also think it makes it more fun because you feel more confident. You're, you know exactly what you're going to do. You're not screwing around. You're not trying to make a game plan right then. You already know how am I going to, what am I doing? It saves a lot of time.
Yeah, but keep in mind also, just to play devil's advocate, not that I disagree with anything you just said. I think everything you said is perfect. Just always keep in mind that when you're playing someone, evaluate what you think their path to winning is as well. And if you want to
100%.
end your game quickly, disrupt that path, right? You could see players make mistakes. Play the player. Don't always play the game. Play the player too. And figure out where you think if you're playing someone in chess and they love to use their queen and they lose their queen in the game and they all of a sudden crumble, that's an important thing for you to realize when you're playing 40K. Same thing. So when you're playing a miniatures game or any strategy game, really, you kind of want to evaluate what does the other person really want to play with. Look for the best painted model. Look
I mean,
for how
that's
they
so funny
talk
that you
about their
say that.
army.
No, that's a big deal though,
It's a
because if
thing,
somebody's got
dude.
one model that's beautiful,
Yeah.
they've spent a lot of time on that, but they also love that using model.
Yeah.
So
For
it
Warhammer is a game in person on a table. It's not a computer game. So the person matters. So yes, have a strategy, deploy your army, flex all of that. Make sure you really know what you're doing. So knowing thyself, right? The big part of it.
know
Knowing thy
thyself.
opponent, know thy opponent, right? Another part of it. Know thy opponent's army, a part of it. And if you can pivot just slightly, even if it's a big risk, right? Like a good example is ATC. Like the last time I was at ATC, it's been like 2 years or so. But I was playing a Necron army with 18 bikes, 18 Necron bikes, and I got paired into this Eldar army that was like all vehicle. No, actually, I think it was a Tau army. Whatever it was an all vehicle army with like just insane amounts of firepower. And no one on the team wanted to play it.
You were also bad against it. Your army was made specifically to kill infantry because
Exactly.
at the time, the best list, the top list And you were
Yes.
seeing in every
Yes.
single team was
Correct.
infantry
Correct.
lists, these mass
Correct.
infantry lists.
Which is perfect for my point because I saw this army and I'm like, oh my God, this army will pick me up. So if I could play it, I can hide behind terrain, use obscuring, get on objectives, play the mission game. I could do all of that, right? That will most likely work. And I'll grind out a game. Or I could just deploy on the line and hope I go first, scout, and engage his entire army and win the game in 1 second. And that's what happened. We rolled. I went first. I scouted the bikes forward. I charged his entire gun line army with all 18 of my bikes. And I looked at him. I said, do you want to keep playing? He said, nope, let's go get a beer. That was it. 20-0.
Okay,
So,
I
like,
would
have a strategy, but also understand how you can pivot. Really important.
I think what you meant to say was give yourself an opportunity to have an opportunity.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. And
I
I'm not playing in the singles either, Brad. And that's because I believe in a welfare state and a welfare program, and that is to take Brad Chester on your team tournament, Warhammer 40K art team, where 50% of the score is painting and modeling and theme and doing all this extra stuff. And Brad knows how to do zero of it, none of it,
I love
absolutely none.
the closer we get to Adepticon, so farther off from Adepticon, Alan is so happy I'm on the team. He's like, you're going to make the list. We're going to crush. You're in charge of all the game plans and what we're bringing. The closer we get and the more work he's now doing, the more I get. Yeah, I may or may not have just had a text thread that just yelled. Alan yelled everyone. No, he didn't. He yelled it specifically at me.
It didn't help that you came over for practice week. You didn't know the missions. You didn't know the deployments. You
I
didn't
did
know
know
how
the
objectives
missions.
go. No, you're like, look it up, look it up, look it up, look it up. I don't even know where to look it up. You're like, so it's just so funny that you're supposed to be in charge. And
I
you're
did.
like, I'm in charge of strategy, baby. That's it. I know how
You
shit
said you
happens.
asked me how you wanted to set up. I go, I don't think I've ever
Yeah. You've never put terrain anywhere. It's so
not
funny.
once. Like
Let
I
other
just go
people
ahead and do.
other people do that for me.
That's
I'm here for how to win.
yeah,
Okay. I'm
this
here
is
for
crazy talk. And placing terrain on the board. That sounds insane.
that's the biggest thing that I have right now is I don't know like what the missions are anymore because if you're just not in the loop, you got to like refresh that part now a little bit more than you used to. I remember back in the day, you wouldn't know the mission. You go to the tournament, you get the mission in front of you. It's a brand new mission. It's like there's
Every
lava
time.
in the center of the board. Every turn it expands 3 inches and it's dangerous terrain. And whenever you touch it,
Death World. Think about
yeah.
dangerous
So like,
or Death World, death boards and stuff like that.
yeah,
Terrain
that's how it
everywhere.
used to be. It used to just be like, get to the table. Here's your mission. And the mission
There's
was
some
similar.
wacky shit sometimes though.
Oh
Like
yeah, there
we're
was
talking about
crazy
the
shit.
freaking GW lava boards where they had an H.
Remember the one where if you hold it, there was a mission. I don't know if you ever played it, but I played a mission once where if you get the objective at the end of the turn, you roll a dice if you have the objective. If you get a 1, your opponent gets to pick up your unit and put it anywhere on the board 9 inches away.
I actually think one of my favorite missions of all time was we had this mission where in the Gladiator, this is how long ago it was Gladiator, and you could pick one unit from your opponent's army and they couldn't bring it out until turn 3.
Oh, I remember
And
that. Yeah, yeah. You basically veto a unit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, my opponent went first and I went second. He chose a unit of Wraith Guard. I chose his Warlord Titan. And I don't know why he decided to do that. He brings his gun out of 3, kills him something, and I just bring
You
my
just bring
Wraith
your Wraith
Guard
Guard.
right next to the and it blew up, and that's when they had the catastrophic explosion. And he
Yeah,
got
it's
a
massive.
30-some inch explosion and killed his entire army.
Love it.
Okay, cool. I guess this game's over. So
Love
those
it.
are crazy stories, though. I like
Yeah.
such. I
I
do
liked old
miss some
stuff
of
like
the
that.
random.
Yeah, some of the old
We
stuff
did
is
have a
cool.
lot. We had a lot more random back in the.
Yeah.
And a
Lot
lot
more-
of people hate that. What are yours? I know you
lot
like
more
it. What do you
flavor.
think?
No,
I do think it's a lot more.
I love the random. I'm playing a game with dice, right? That's the whole point. Like, I think the random is super fun. I think that's what the game needs to have, in my opinion. I also like, I don't know. I've never been a big fan of this already. I've never been a big fan of like set terrain, set missions. I hate
It's such
hate
a
all
big
that
deal
stuff.
now, dude.
Yeah, I hate
You know
all
that
that.
people are like really adamant about that.
Yeah, I know. I'm in the gross. I'm in the very far minority. I know that. I'm well aware. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of it. I like different kinds of terrain.
Corporate
I like
40K.
thinking about stuff. Yeah, I don't like corporate 40K. You know this already. We talked about this in the past. I think people game. I think like it only gives advantage to people who are really have the time to invest in like practicing now specifically for the terrain, practicing now specifically for the missions, designing army lists that take advantage of the terrain and of the missions. Right? What did we do? The first thing we did on the very first day we met was to calculate whether or not a 28.5 millimeter base can still charge someone
Yep.
if they're one inch and 1 millimeter away from the wall. And we figured out, yeah, you could. Yeah. So if a model is 1.1 inches from the wall, which is like a normal strategy, 32 millimeter base can't engage it, or anything bigger cannot engage it because it would be in the wall.
Right.
But a 28.5 can't. So Eldar can't hide from them. They can run.
And how it does is it fits between the groups.
Correct.
Every
Yes.
time the two models are together, and you
Yeah.
have the indent, it fits.
Why is this even a thing? Like, why do we even need this? To be honest,
Well,
like we should just be able to charge stuff. If you could charge it, you could charge it. Remember,
100%.
remember the year Nova where models could just exist in walls, and then they broke the game because they had some walls that were bigger than the model. So we
Yeah,
were
so
like,
it
well,
would stay inside the wall.
what if
Forever.
what if warp spiders were just in the wall? Then could you shoot them?
Remember
It's
Rose
like-
did that.
Yeah, I
Rose
know,
did that
Rose
and
did
just
that.
won the game. He was just like, I'm going to
That's-
stay inside this
But
wall.
that's stupid. Obviously, he
100%.
should be able. He should be able to stay in the wall. That's fine, but he should also be able to be shot.
Yeah,
He's not
well,
like
they lost.
invisible now. It's so
He's part of
stupid.
the wall he melded into. He's in the spirit world, dog.
Yeah, so for those who are listening and actually care, they had these big rock walls. And back in that day, warp spiders can shoot and then move after they shoot. So he was like jumping out, shooting, and then getting back in the wall. And the judges were like, yeah, it's fine. We ruled that walls cannot be like abused. You can't abuse walls so that models can't fit. Right? Like the terrain is situational based on the battlefield. Models placement is situational based on the battlefield. Let's embrace the narrative of Warhammer. Let's not play it like literal as the bases literally are. But yeah, it created another problem where they didn't rule the second part of the question, like the rule using logic. Like obviously the warp spider should be able to get shot. That's duh. It should have been like he needs to pick a side. That's what I would have said you're in the wall, but for intensive purposes, you're either facing this side or this side. So models on this side could shoot you, or models on this side could shoot you. That's what I would have done.
I have to say this year, going back to talking about the team tournament stuff, I'm going to go back to the singles.
The thing that you're
Oh,
oh yeah, okay. The thing that you're not
Yeah.
really helping with right now. Got it. Yeah, go ahead.
I love everything about this. It's so bad. Also, Waterfall.
I hate waterfalls with a passion.
But the team tournament, I actually really enjoy the problems and stuff that come in because speaking of, and I embraced it as opposed to some of us who have a lot of hate people on their team. I embrace the joy because Alan said we're playing Highlander this year. 0 across all 4,000 points.
No repeats of any kind. Not troops, not dedicated transport, nothing.
And so I had to make, with those constraints, I had to make 4 1,000 point lists. And I had a really good time. I really enjoyed it. I think our lists are really cool.
Yeah, I had fun as well making the army. So because we're Highlander, I also made every single unit unique. So none of the units are the same. So they're all like every single unit, like the jet bikes are a different dinosaur riding jet bike than the warlocks on bike. And the warlocks on bike are a different dinosaur than the shroud runners on bike, like totally different dinosaurs.
I'm excited to
Um,
show people. Once we have them on the board and we got some picks for everybody, we'll probably do it next episode and show some of the results from Adepticon.
Yeah, probably 2 episodes from now, like we'll have a recap episode. So I have some time just to take pictures of everything and put it all together. But I think
Well,
we'll
I
finish
like
the
that.
board.
I liked them a lot, though. I
They're not
enjoyed the way.
they're not
Yeah, I
painted
know,
as-
but I'm saying
Yeah.
the model itself is
Yeah.
really cool. You used raptors for our jet bikes, and they look
Yes,
really
yes. I'm
Our
excited.
cri-
I'm excited.
Crimson Hunter's a pterodactyl.
Yeah. I'm working on the base right now. I love it. It's really cool. It's looking good.
It looks really sweet. I think it's really cool. You know what? Talk about that in the meta. What do you, if you were running right now, you're running a Adepticon team.
Yeah.
Would you put any comp restrictions on stuff? Because there is a big difference between
Yeah,
a lot of the teams.
I would handle comp very easy for Adepticon, if I was in charge. And the way I would handle comp is I would have a very small comp impact based on the army you picked. Like the army you picked should almost not matter. It'll matter a little bit if you're abusing the attributes of that army. So if you're running IG and you have all of the mortars, all of the special sauce, you're taking all the Toroxes, you're taking all of the special weapon guys, what are those guys called? The special teams. The guys with all the Meltas and the Lasgun pistols.
Scions.
Yeah. If you have all this, if you're just maxing, if it's 4 guys, everyone's maxing, then you're going to get hit pretty hard on comp from me because you're spamming, right? So the moment I see spamming, I'm going to start to go, okay, what did you take more than 2 of? That's where I'm going to start to say, okay, does your army have enough variety so that this wasn't needed? If you're custodes and you have more than 2 custodian guard units, that's okay. If you have more than 2 paladin units, that's probably okay. If you have more than 2 of the custodian dreadnoughts, that's probably okay. Because custodians have a very small limited line. If you're playing harlequins and you're repeating with harlequins, that's probably fine. But if harlequins are like the top tier S army and you're coming with harlequins and you have all 4 armies of harlequins, I would beg to differ. I would say you could have took some Dark Eldar, you could have took some Eldar, you could have made a Harlequin versus something else battle as a theme and 2 Harlequin, 2 something else. The fact that you came with all Harlequin and Harlequins are like the top army, let's just hypothetically say, that's where I'll take those 2 things into one algorithm, like high powered codex mixed in with spam of high powered parts of that codex. That's where I would feel like comp
Now, do you need a
comes into
rubric for
play.
that, or are you doing it just all
So
subjective?
the moment you make a rubric, people will game the rubric. So you defeat your point with the rubric. The rubric will just tell you what's banned. That's all the rubric will do. Because it'll just be like, hey, this is our rubric. So you'll just start like banning things. I don't think you can just universally ban. Like I said, like custodians, like Harlequins right now are not considered the best. So if you did take an army where you spammed a bunch of stuff, I don't think it's that much of a problem. Let's say you took demons and you wanted to play a bunch of corn, let's say 4 armies of demons, and you're going as Karn, right? You're making a giant, I don't know, let's say a casket, and it's themed with blood, and it has a dead corn body in it and a dead skull throne.
All hypothetical, of
Oh,
course.
hypothetical, hypothetical. And there's like a fountain of blood, like on it. I don't know. And it's super cool. And everyone has a bloodthirster. Everyone has a unit of dogs. Everyone has bloodletters. Everyone has a skull cannon or something like that. Should that get docked? No, that should never. That's awesome. That's awesome. If corn was the best thing in the game, then yeah, maybe it does need to get docked. So I think that's why you can't really make a rubric. It has to be somewhat subjective. But I think we all know what armies are like the top 5. And I think
Because we don't
taking
have anything of that, because we have had in recent years some real spammy armies that got really
dude,
good.
the 2 years ago when we lost, we were in the championship round with our World Eaters army, where we took a very balanced, very all-around World Eaters army, Angron, 4 versions of Angron, and we lost to the IGs, the Canadian guys, which are great guys. I was shocked that they won the whole tournament. I was absolutely shocked because that was guards, like, that was like the peak of
They're
guard at that time.
powerful.
This was like 2 years ago. The team had 16 Lehman Russes, 4 squads of Scout Sentinels. They had 4 units of Carcassins,
Cascans, yeah.
Casterkins. Yeah, they had everything. They had all of the stuff that you'd be like, here's the stuff that's good in guard. They had that. They didn't take anything that was inefficient. And then that was back when Adepticon didn't really have the best terrain. So we're in the championship round, round 5 of Adepticon teams with World Eaters.
Player
We have
place
like,
train also.
there's 4 pieces of player place terrain in the board. It was rough. We just looked at each other. This is going to be bad. And yeah, and it was rough. We basically pushed. I think one table lost a couple points, one table won a couple points. But then at the end, when they won overall and we got second, I was shocked. I didn't think we were going to win the tournament. I thought someone else would probably leapfrog us. I know you did. You did actually think we were going to win because our theme was just on point that year.
Our theme was so strong.
Everything was so strong that year, I think, in terms of display, and the models were heavily converted and everything like that. It's a really fun event, man.
That was the year. That was the year I was
fun.
most disappointed because of the fact that I thought we had the everything. You know what I mean?
Second place is second place. First loser, but silver. It's good
That's
stuff. Brad Place. You should be familiar with it. Every event that we go to, at least, you're right behind me. And I don't know. I think that's actually super not true for the last 7 years.
You know what? We're gonna before I go back to Adepticon singles, I want you to tell what you kept doing. So Alan would show up to tournaments under fake names.
Oh yeah, I did.
Tell me he's coming. It would be and it would always be something in my hometown. He would come to Chicago, and he would just show up under a fake name. And you started getting so ridiculous because not only he made fake names, they were all names of characters from different TV shows. And he literally got a backstory for multiple of these. And I was
came
like,
with
dude,
a tattoo sleeve once. I put on a fake tattoo sleeve. It took a long time to wash that off, by the way. It was all names from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I would just show up as one of Jake Peralta's alter egos. And I'd be like, what's up, bro?
with the full backstory of he's a surgeon. He does this. Did you really just make a backstory for your fake character for your 40K
Hell yeah,
entry?
man. Fun,
Yes,
dude.
indeed, I did.
Hell
'Cause,
yeah.
I love
So much
everything
fun.
about that.
So much
There
fun.
is some cracky stuff on that.
Yeah, I don't think
Single.
if I ever went back to singles, I will go back to singles. I plan on doing some singles events this year. I'm coming to your tournament in June. When's your
June,
tournament? June.
June 6th, 7th, and 8th. The Motor City, I actually changed it. It is the 40K Major, sponsored by the Lorecast, run by Brian
Nice.
Horton and Brad Chester.
Nice.
It'll be
nice.
June 6th, 7th, and 8th. Tickets are up. I'm super excited about it. We've
Wait,
got
Brian Horton is running it with you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know Brian was running it. Cool.
Like,
Awesome.
you were going to have an adult running it. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
have just me.
I didn't know if John was playing a role in it, or is John just playing?
John's just playing.
Oh, sweet. I'm excited. All right, cool.
So one of the biggest things, I'm very excited about it because I wanted a tournament that had all the things that I like as a player.
That's my tournament back to the game. Is that because I think you guys scored appropriately?
We got individual tables, so every table's an island. We have table service for drinks and food and everything else. Then we're doing per round some prizes out there for wacky stuff.
Oh man, I'm gonna get even with you on this one. I'm gonna get so drunk. I'm gonna get like the boys level drunk.
Ooh, that's rough.
And I'm just gonna make a scene.
Oh God, I'm gonna have my Ellen arrested.
Buddy, you gotta sit down over here.
I'm actually super excited about it because I'm doing all the stuff that I want
Me
to
too.
have for a tournament.
Me
There's
too.
going to be paint judging by like really good painters, and they've got a full rubric that we're using. So that's coming from.
So
one of the bigger tournaments.
speaking of rubrics, right? Theme and comp hard to rubric, kind of subjective. I agree. I think there are some universal rules with theme and stuff like that. Like comp, I just went through it. Theme, it should be relevant to the 40K universe in some way. If your theme is like Sisters of Battle and the Knights and Custodes and Grey Knights got together to have a DJ party, that's not a freaking theme. I'm sorry. This is not a theme. I'm just going to go out there and say it. I love everyone. Not a theme. Not a theme, right? It needs to have some grounding in 40K. It doesn't necessarily have to be based on a book. It doesn't even necessarily have to fully make sense. It could be your own version of a story that could happen in the dark, grim future. But if you take no effort or if you just make up nonsense, those are basically equivalent in my eyes. So if I was running it, that's how I would look at that. Not running it, so whatever. People could do whatever they want, right? And they'll get judged however they want. But painting has always historically been a pretty easy rubric, right? There's a subjectivity on good, great, awesome. That's like a 5, 10, 15 score. But then like highlighting, shading, basing, conversions, all those things, those are all like freehand. Those are like the 6 general categories. And then you just go again, good, great, awesome for all of them. And that's basically what it is. That's basically your rubric. And then also, by the way, a max score on a rubric should always be like 15 points more than the max score you can get. Because there should be like best painted, which is just who's the best rubric. And there should be like the painting score at the event. So let's say, for example, the painting score is out of 50. Make the rubric go to 70 or 75. Because then someone who has, let's just really quickly walk through this. Overall, it's awesome, 15 points. Overall, highlighting is really good. It's not awesome, but highlighting is good, like really good. So let's say great, right? So they're going to get another 10, so they're at 25. Conversions, solid. Not great, not awesome, but solid. So another 5 points. So they're at 30, right? Then let's say shading is really good. So that's 10 more. That's 40. Let's say their freehand is really good. That's 10 more. That's 50, right? They've maxed. You've already maxed, and they should have maxed, right? Even if the bases are just average, they should have maxed. And if the bases are good, let's say the bases are awesome, right? Let's say they're amazing. So like 12 more points or 15 more points on top of that, whatever the case may be. And then you give the best painted award to whoever maxed out the bracket. But it should be okay at an event to have roughly 10% of the event, maybe a little less, have a perfect paint score for the event. Overall purpose. Like the overall purpose of the event, you shouldn't feel like only one person deserves a perfect score for painted.
They're making a rubric and it's being grabbed by a lot of the people, like the Green Banner guys and stuff like that, have a paint score for that. And they're doing, and a lot of people are gravitating onto scores like that, where multiple people just get a level. You're not just saying this guy got a 50 because only one person can get a 50. You got a 49.
Yeah, stop that.
You had great armies. So you both have 50s. And I like that quite a bit.
I think you should go further for the scoring, though, so that you actually know who is best painted. That's a different concept, right? So best painted is different. When you're overall judging, though, I think it's okay for a 100-person tournament There's 5 to 10 people that have a perfect painting score. And then in that 5
Right.
to 10, there's a huge range. And that's totally fine. I think if you took a regular, let's say like a normie, took someone off the street who doesn't know anything about painting or 40K, and you show them like the best model at the event, and another person who could have got a 50 did really well, like top 5, they're not going to be able to tell the difference between the two models. So for the purposes of the overall score, it's important, I think, if you have the bracket go over so that you can award best painted the right way, but not create a curve, because then the curve isn't justified in the mid round. Like the difference between the guy who has 41 and 50 in reality is not going to be there. Like the guy who has the 50 is going to get a 43. And then you're going to feel bad giving the guy with a 41 anything lower, right? That's what's going to happen. So you got to make sure you give everyone that put in enough effort to get a max, they get a max. And then you evaluate who's the best after that. That's
But
different.
that's a different award too. You know what I mean? So
Different
we're
award.
talking about
Yeah,
two different things.
award.
Yeah,
Different
100%.
award.
And I like that.
But those extra points don't go into the overall. That's how they used to do it. I'm not inventing anything here. That's how all of the old rubrics were back in the day. Like way back in the day for overall, you'd have an overall score of 50 for painting, but like the rubric went to 70 if you maxed it, or like 75. If you got every single point in the entire rubric, you were at like 75 points. That's why conversions were so important. I would finish a tournament back in like, we're talking like 2010, 2012. I'd finish a tournament and I'd have my army and I'd have a buddy of mine. Buddy's army's painted better. We both objectively feel like my buddy's army's painted better, but my army has a ton of conversion, like just a ton, and a lot more freehand. And then we get our scores, and my painting score is higher. And my buddy's like, bro, I highlight better. My color picks are better. My blending is better. What's going on? I'm like, I have all of those things good. Yes, yours is better. Mine is great though. And then I also have conversions in freehand, and you don't. And that's the difference. That's what takes me over the top.
That's a hard too. Like I actually think that the paint judging people have a harder time than regular.
Oh,
40K
100%. Yeah. It's
It's
100%. You have to forget the one you just saw. A good paint judge needs to not remember that you cannot compare army to army
Has to be
as
a
you're going
goldfish?
through. Yeah,
Ah,
you have to be a goldfish. Yeah. Yeah. You got to be noodling for those sixes.
noodling for sixes, baby.
I got to throw that in every once in a while. It's just a part of my contract.
Who's going to win Adepticon? What faction? We've gotta co-
Kaziists.
No. Okay. Yes. Team tournament. We already locked it in. I already called them up. So I won. We got that in the individual for the Adepticon 40K singles event. You got some really strong armies. You got things like everybody loves Docker right now with sustained 2 on everybody.
Yeah.
You've got
That's what I would play. If I was going right now, I'd be playing orcs.
It's a fun army too.
Yeah,
It's
for
got
sure.
a lot of volume. Yeah, Custode's very strong because I think it has a very big counter to orcs on that. You've still got Bobby G and the Ultramarines doing their super shooty lists. You've seen a lot of you've seen Blood Angels and stuff do well, but I think that you saw a lot of Bloodless Angels and that be with the data slate.
Yeah.
They said they no longer get their +1 on their oath. So any of those detachments. So we've got that. We've got a decent. You can win with anything, to be honest with you. Or is one of the complex armies like an Eldar, a Dark Eldar, things of that nature. He's still very strong, even though Bridgehead got hit pretty hard. That army's still nasty as hell. I'm wondering, what do you think? What would you put your Vegas money on? What do you think's going to win? Again, 9 games of 40K. So, like, some of these horde armies are very strong, but are they strong for 9 games of 40K?
Yeah, you're not going to like my answer per usual.
Yeah.
Your narrative and your brand and your benchmark is to suggest that all armies could really compete and any army could win, any army could compete. The meta's great. The game's awesome. That's the slogan of Brad. For me, like I don't know who's going, so I don't know the attendance pool. I'm sure I could open it up on Best Coast pairings probably, but I'm not going to do that right now. But my opinion is you're going to see a name you've seen before. And my opinion on 40K in general is that there is a fairly small group of people that are basically so good and play it so often and flex those muscles that we talk about so much that really the goal is to overcome them. You have to beat those people. So I don't know if the change to the armies that just happened recently is big enough where, and I don't know if the top players have pivoted quick enough to make up for that. But with all of that to be said, I'm not in the details on that. If I was going, I'd be playing the orc army. I think the orc army is a really interesting concept. I think it's fun. I think it's a lot of shooting. So I think it changes the perception of the game quite a bit, where we've been stuck in this high quality, like damage output, rend output game for a little while. And then that list comes along and it's like, roll way more dice than you've ever rolled for saves ever. I don't care that you have a 2+ save and I have no rend. Like it's gonna happen, right? Like that. I think that's what's happening with that. So we'll see how that pivots. And then
It's an
yes,
army with all multi-damage too.
no, I know. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So it's not like crazy multi damage, but yeah, damage 2 is great. Damage 3
Twos
is
and threes, yeah.
damage 2 and 3 is really serious stuff. So yes, I would go with something along those lines. I'm actually really curious, like what people make from the change. So I've been hearing some crazy army lists where like you're talking like hundreds of models, and that's pretty interesting. I don't know if the meta is ready for that right now. So if someone shows up to Adepticon with a 200 to 300 model army count and like some hard hitting like close combat units or hard hitting like damage dealing units mixed in, it's gonna be really interesting.
I think the horde armies always have a play because of the fact that there's just a lot of armies that do not have enough dice to do anything about it. That's a fact. There's so many armies that have, you've got great stuff, but you don't have enough actual weight of dice to go, I can't get rid of your 300 models.
And if there is a pivot to horde armies with guard and demons, and I don't know if GSC is coming back at all or whatever else may be
GSC's
there.
been doing very well. The
but
guard detachment for just the horde of guardsmen.
yeah, I know, but the
legit army.
orcs, the orc army is going to be great counter to that meta.
Oh
So if
yeah.
the meta shifts to a horde and then someone brings the DACA, like, whew,
And
good
just
luck,
take
man.
800 saves. There you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Remember the time you
This-
took 800 saves? It was right now.
it's pretty. Sustain 2 is no joke, man. What I would tell you is I would expect to see. I'm shocked that GW did push out a change before Adepticon's cutoff. I feel like those people talk. So I feel like Adepticon might have been like, hey, can we not do this? And maybe they said, hey, we're cool with it. I don't know. But I'm shocked it came out like the day before. It was like literally the day of or the day before of their cutoff. And it was a pretty big shakeup, I think, in general. So we'll see. I don't know. I would be very surprised if there isn't a fast FAQ post Adepticon where someone does come with something very abusive that no one saw. And they're just like, oh no, this was not what we wanted.
This is not what we did not want you to play that. Shoot, we had it 2 years ago with that. If you remember the initial Harlequin,
Yeah.
everyone just, I've never seen shittier looking Harlequin armies.
Void Weavers.
Oh man, it was just like people were just finding these things
like,
and slapping them together.
Where did you get that many popsicle sticks?
Yeah, they were bad looking.
Why is your tank melting?
It was whew.
So I think that's something that GW needs to be aware of right now. Not to go into a rant because I don't want to rant right now, but the idea of making an army, like I can't imagine they on purpose make mistakes like these. Like some of the mistakes they make, or I guess mistakes are not on purpose. I can't imagine that these are real mistakes that they're making. I feel like they intend to make certain things better. And then once they make them better, they're going to sell models. But here's the problem. There's 2 problems. A, the Void Weaver is a good example of this. Everyone goes and gets it 3D printed or they get it from Russia or China or somewhere. Second thing, they don't even have the model in the store.
That's my point. That's where I'm going. That's where I was going with this is I don't understand GW because they make these models and you're like, I would love to buy your model. Because people don't want to have to go 3D print. They want to buy the thing. Like, I want an Exocrat. I want a Gladiator tank. I wanted those Void Weavers at the time. If you can't get them and it's the best thing or one of the best things for your army, you're still going to play with it. Competitive players are going to find these. They're going to find a way to put it on the board. I think it's crazy to me that they just don't have it. And I don't know. I have no idea what GW has for logistics and everything else. But man, it seems like you're really missing the boat when you see people bringing 3 of whatever in every army, and you're like, none of these were GW bought. That's a lot of money that they're losing by not being able to have that model.
Yeah, I that's exactly how I feel too. So I feel like they can't be making them. The mistakes are so blatant that like they couldn't have not known that they've created a vacuum of power somewhere in the game when they make some of these changes. But then the fact that they don't have the models available and they also know that 3D printing is eating their margins, what's the point? Like just try to make it balanced. Try to not screw up in the first place where I'm coming from. and like
Yeah, but
don't
man,
make
we
it.
have 27 factions with 6 to 8 detachments.
Well, they
Or it's
said 10th was going to be easier, less books, less dice, less re-rolling. That's what they claimed. I have a
it,
video. You want me to show it to you? I can link to
dude.
it actually if
I,
you want me
I
to.
love that when they first came out with 10th, they said there's going to be less re-rolling, and
Yeah,
then they
less books
immediately,
too. There was supposed to be less
yeah,
books, less
remember?
rules,
No,
explode.
the next day they released Oath of the Moment, which was full rerolls, and at the
Oh
time
yeah,
it was
yeah,
full
yeah,
rerolls to hit,
yeah. And I remember people going, "Oh, it's just gonna be Space Marines." It's like,
and
no,
then it was
bro,
just everybody
everything.
getting it.
Everybody's got rerolls everywhere. I'm like shocked that they haven't gone back and said, you know what, we're gonna allow rerolls to rerolls. Like,
Rerolls.
let's go, baby.
You can reroll it until you make it. You can't be stopped.
That weapon, there was a weapon once where it was basically, in my opinion, I mean, I know it's not literally the same thing, but it felt like rerolls to rerolls because it was like a weapon where you had 5 attacks, and for every attack that went through, you got those attacks back.
Yeah, the sustained. It was insane. That's when sustained was a way different thing. You kept getting, you got more attacks every time you hit.
Yeah, yeah. Every time it went through, you just got more attacks. Oh, more,
So
more,
crazy.
more.
Come on, I only got 36 hits. You're like, what?
What is
This is
going
great.
on, dude? That was nuts. So yeah, no, I'm excited for Adepticon. I know you're coming up.
Are you excited for my new audio equipment?
I always say coming up, but technically, is Toledo on the same
I'm actually north of you.
longitude? Are you north of me? I don't know. I
I
gotta
think
look
so.
at a map now.
Hold on, we're gonna look at maps together.
Put a map here.
Above the US. Am I above Allen? I I think that Chi-Town is slightly above me. Is it?
No, you're lower, I think.
Yeah,
Chicago's 4187, and
yeah.
we're
Because you have to go up and
4165.
you have to go up and around. You have
Yeah,
to go
yeah, yeah.
around the lake.
Yeah, I like it.
I love you.
Figure
Hey,
this
what are
out.
we you're like, what are we gonna do at the end of the video? Probably randomly talk about what my drive to Chicago looks like. You're like, thanks everybody. I'm glad you hold on for that one.
We're clearly
Break.
scripted here. Clearly scripted here.
Good news, everyone. Tell me about the Patreon. Things you can help. Again, I got new audio. Alan said, quote, Brad, your audio sounds like a bag of cats banging pants. And he went, buy this.
I,
And
I,
sent me a list of
I am a
which
little
are
bit of
currently right over there.
a little bit of an audio snob, so that the story checks out.
It is sitting right in boxes and bags right now, ready to be done. I have to pick up a microphone from one Mr. Pajama Pants
Yeah.
in 3 days.
Yeah, I'm gonna be making a waterfall. That's one thing I'm doing. And
That's an excellent choice. I really appreciate you coming up with the waterfall idea. I was very happy.
every single human being that walks up to our display board and says, "Hey man, I really like the waterfall," I'm gonna say, "Yeah, no problem. That was my idea." Everyone who
Screw
comes,
you.
every single person, because you did nothing for it, and the waterfall needs
I
so
did
much
too.
love.
I said, Alan, I want a waterfall.
The waterfall needs so much love and so much attention, and you did nothing for her. Nothing.
Yeah, I
Zero.
did.
You're like
I
an
said,
absentee.
I
You're
want
like an
a
absentee
waterfall.
waterfall dad. You should be paying me child support for this waterfall for the rest of your life.
Child support for the waterfall.
You should. You should pay me child support. Some kind of like alimony, some kind of psychiatric alimony support for dealing with such a waterfall. No, but no joke. Like, I know I could have made a very simple waterfall for you, and you would have been like, thanks, man. So we have a waterfall, our whole display board.
I'm joyous.
So I went like waterfall extreme. And now I'm just mad at myself.
Lead into it.
Now I'm just mad at myself at this point. But yeah, no, I gotta finish all the rocks. Rocks are tough. Like making rocks out of pink foam, people think is easy. Making shitty rocks out of pink foam is easy.
Tell me why it's hard. I actually don't know. Tell me why it's hard.
So pink foam is fairly susceptible to breaking in ways that you didn't intend. So and you can't use a pink foam cutter. So there's like little wire cutters that cut pink foam, but those are like for precision cuts. When you're making rocks, you want like a rock shape. You don't want something that's precise because that doesn't happen in nature. There's no straight lines. So you kind of want like the rugged edges. You want it to look rocky, like it has like flat sides and curves and all that stuff, so that it dry brushes really nice, like a real rock. But it's hard to do. You have a flat side, so you have to like you almost have to carve them. You have to physically carve rocks out of foam using like a sharp blade, and then you have to figure out how to glue them to the rock wall that you're making in a way that makes them all look the same. You can't have rocks that go, think about nature, all the rocks look like they flow together. Like the mountain looks like it works, like it was carved. It doesn't look random. So you can't have the carvings be one direction on one rock and a totally separate direction on the other rock. So the normal way to solve this is you glue a bunch of pig foam together and you carve it all at one time. We can't do that with our board because there's fucking waterfalls. No, I'm just kidding. It's because of just the general structure of the board. The general structure of the board doesn't really support that model. I could have probably done that. Looking back, maybe that was a mistake. Maybe that was something I should have done. Didn't do that though. So we're doing it a different way. But I'm learning. I'm not an expert at making display boards, despite the practice that I've had.
I was just about to say, you've been making display boards for 20 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
I have, yeah.
And that's not 20, it's 18, but yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. It's a while. How about
I mean, but they're progressively better. Like the display boards I made in like 2008, 2009, all the way to 2015.
You know what I still have in
nowhere
my bedroom?
Near. What do you have?
Eldar Gladiator Arena is over there.
I made that in 2 days with the whole art.
I love it. It's still up there.
Yeah.
It has socks on it right now.
Yeah. So I gotta finish. That's so funny. Where do you keep your socks? I keep them in a coliseum.
Exactly.
A coliseum that exists only in Kamarag.
The greatest warriors to the and socks.
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to start making some more like display boards for singles events and just like flexing those muscles. I find it very relaxing, like despite the anger of the waterfall.
I was just about to say,
overall,
I feel like you are not like relaxed.
Overall, it's relaxing.
You keep sending middle of the night angry texts to our team groups. Text.
Yeah, that's more the fact that I have so many other responsibilities outside of building this display board. But yeah, I also do it to myself, right? So I could have made a smaller display board with less going on, and I decided to not do that for some ungodly reason.
Weirdly enough, you have been saying that it's going to be small, and then it keeps getting bigger and bigger, apparently.
It does somehow just keep getting bigger. I don't know how it happens. Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird. Yeah, so in retrospect, I would have approached it very differently. And it would have been a lot easier, I think. But yeah, it didn't do that.
I'm excited to see it. I hope that I'm really hoping it's not a circle.
It's for the first time, not a circle. Yeah, for the first time. For the first time, it's not a circle. That's it for today's episode on the Chapter 416 podcast. My name is Pajama Pants. That is Brad Chester. And we are out. Thank you for tuning in, and feel free to like and subscribe to the podcast.
Go to the Patreon.